Hey, I'm Nancy Cavey, National ERISA and Individual Disability Attorney. Welcome to this episode of Winning Isn't Easy. Before we get started, I've got to give you that legal disclaimer. The Florida Bar tells me that I have to tell you that this podcast is not legal advice. All right, I've done that. And nothing will prevent me from giving you an easy to understand overview of the disability insurance world, the games that disability carriers play, and what you need to know to get the disability benefits you deserve. So off we go. Now, today, I'm going to be talking about exploring the world of neuropathic disorders. And these are disorders that cause neuropathic pain. And those of you who have neuropathic pain know how painful it is, how these disorders can sometimes overlap with other pain-centric disorders like Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. And we're even going to walk through a case study so you can see firsthand how disability carriers handle pain and neuropathic pain-based claims. We're going to discuss three specific topics. One is going to be neuropathic ocular pain and your ERISA disability claim. I'm going to talk about the similarities between Ehlers-Danlos syndrome and complex regional pain syndrome and an ERISA disability claim. And I'm going to talk about how an ERISA claims administrator like Sedgwick will try to get away with a denial based on a non-specialty IME in neuropathic or RSD claims. All of this is really relevant to your ERISA claim, regardless of whether your particular disorder is neuropathic in nature, because many bases of disability claims have a pain component. So this is something that's relevant for every ERISA disability claim. Let's take a break before we get started.
Have you been robbed of your peace of mind from your disability insurance carrier? You owe it to yourself to get a copy of Robbed of Your Peace of Mind, which provides you with everything you need to know about the long-term disability claim process. Request your free copy of the book at kvlaw.com today.
Welcome back to Winning Isn't Easy. Let's talk about neuropathic ocular pain and an ERISA disability claim. Your cornea has significant sensory innervation, and it can produce pain that obviously can result in a disability claim. Now, neuropathic ocular pain, known as NOP, is a constellation of persistent ocular pain syndromes. You might have burning, you might have increased sensitivity to light or wind, shooting pain in one or both eyes, and that may or may not be present on examination with an ocular surface abnormality. In other words, you can have pain without actually having an ocular surface abnormality. It can be caused by a number of conditions, anatomic abnormalities, environmental exposures, even nerve dysfunction of the peripheral and central nerves that connect the cornea to the conjunctive of the brain. And these are incredibly painful conditions that interfere obviously with visual acuity, distance, peripheral vision, but more importantly, it, as I've said, is incredibly painful. So let's start out by talking about what disability carriers are looking for in a disability claim. They're going to start out by getting your medical records. They're going to be looking for a thorough history of your ocular problems, how they developed, how they impact your ability to function. And they're going to look for the results of physical examinations and diagnostic studies. What's important in my view is that you understand that NOP can be present in one or both of your eyes. It can start spontaneously. It can start after trauma. It can even start after surgery. There can be very few physical signs of ocular damage, based on physical examination. And there can also be some problems with examinations, results, and with diagnostic studies. So at a minimum, the disability carrier is going to expect that you are going to be seen by somebody other than your general practitioner. In other words, they want to see examinations by eye care providers and eye pain specialists. It can be very difficult to diagnose, and that will sort of play into the disability carrier's games because they want to see a concrete diagnosis. Another problem here is that NOP symptoms don't always correlate with the actual physical findings, and many patients are dismissed. Pain patients are dismissed all the time as being drug-seeking or anxious. And your medical records, regardless of if we're talking about NOP or any other pain condition, should be addressing these issues. So what are your symptoms? How do those symptoms begin? How do those symptoms impact with your ability to function? What are the physical exam findings? What are any diagnostic findings? If they are inconclusive or potentially quote unquote inconsistent, your medical records should be addressing this and explain why you may not present with all of the expected physical findings, but nonetheless you have this diagnosis of NOP. And your medical records should document whether or not you're drug seeking or whether or not this is all psychiatric, if you will, in your head, because these are the common things that disability carriers will seize on. Now, what else do they want to see in your medical records? They want to see that you got appropriate medical treatment. And that involves you getting dry eye treatment, therapies, and treatment to correct ocular surface abnormalities, pain management. They want to see that, and they want to see your response to this particular type of treatment. Now, obviously, they're going to be looking at your medical records, and they're going to be looking at your activity of daily living forms and the APS forms that your doctors have completed. There has to be consistency between your history of the symptoms, the impact that you're complaining of in terms of your ability to work. But there also has to be consistency here between what you're reporting in terms of your activities of daily living. So if you say, for example, wind makes your symptoms worse, but you're out on the golf course playing golf, that potentially can be a problem. So your activities need to be consistent with the aggravating factors that cause the NOP symptoms. Now, think about that. Think about that also in terms of what you're doing, if anything, on social media, because I promise you, as part of the evaluation of an NOP claim, or any claim, quite frankly, the carrier is going to be looking at your activity of daily living forms, your medical records, going to be looking at the APS form that the doctor has completed, and they're going to be looking at your social media accounts to determine whether or not they actually believe the diagnosis, whether they believe that the symptoms impact your ability to do your own or any occupation, and whether or not the medical treatment that you're getting rises to the level of care that is expected in the case. And understand, overlaying all of this is going to be your social media report. On any kind of social media site. Are you doing something that's inconsistent with a diagnosis, with your reported symptoms, or your inability to work? Consistency is the key. Got it? All right, let's take a break.